NFL Week 4 is all but a Monday night doubleheader in the books, and I thought that this week taught us a lot about a lot of different football teams. Today, we are going to react to every single game that is in the books. Your boy threw his back out. Don't know how, don't know when, but if you see me kind of get shifty or antsy, probably just some sciatica going on, but we got a lot of games to talk about, so let's hop into it. First up, we're going to start with the Thursday Night Football contest. There's a full reaction video to this on the channel now, but Seattle picked up the 23-20 victory. I thought that Darnold looked really solid in this game. He looked better than Kyler Murray. He's a more trustworthy quarterback than Kyler Murray. The Seahawks just feel like a better version than the Cardinals rest of season. Better QB, more trustable run game. Smith and Jigba, give me him over Marvin Harrison Jr. Give me the Seahawks defense over Arizona, and then even give me Mike McDonald as the head coach advantage. I do think Seattle could certainly make a playoff run in the NFC, but the NFC is just so loaded. We're going to talk about this in a bit, but when you factor in that Seattle, to make a playoff run, Philly, you got Green Bay, you got Detroit, you got Tampa Bay, you got the Rams, you got the Niners, you got Seattle themselves, you got Chicago, you got Commanders, like Minnesota still alive, I suppose. So there's just a lot of action going on there in the NFC. But Seattle, man, they have looked the part through 1 month of the season. 2-0 on the road, a really good road team last year. Looks like they're going to be a really good road team this year. And for Arizona, they got to figure out that offense. We'll see if Kyler and Marv, this was the start of something for that connection, but it feels like a real uphill battle for them at this point in the season with their only 2 wins. Coming against some bad NFL comp, I could see the Cardinals falling off of a cliff here. The NFL goes to Ireland for the Dublin game, and the Pittsburgh Steelers pick up the 24-21 victory. Guys, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-1. I can't tell if they're good or not. Each time that I watch the Pittsburgh Steelers, I feel like they're not a great football team, yet I feel like they keep just finding ways to win. And that's kind of always been the formula of the Mike Tomlin era and Mike Tomlin teams. That's why this guy has never had a losing season, and you have to respect it. They almost found a way to lose this game, giving up 15 points in the fourth quarter to Carson Wentz and that Vikings offense. But ultimately, from start to finish, Pittsburgh actually did look like the better team today, and this was probably their best game of the season in terms of complete overall game, I would say. The run defense looked really good back-to-back weeks now with Derek Harmon, the rookie out of Oregon that they drafted. Obviously, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, those guys are menaces. Peyton Wilson made perhaps a game-saving tackle when he caught up to Jordan Addison down the sideline. Talk about some extra hustle from your linebacker spot. And on the offense, man, Aaron Rodgers, 18-22, only 200 yards, but a 119.7 passer rating, 1 touchdown, no picks. The 80-yard touchdown to DK Metcalf, obviously. You're going to get some explosive plays when you have guys like Metcalf and Calvin Austin, but the Pittsburgh offense, while it looked good today, I do have my concerns about how sustainable this is. 200 passing yards only from Aaron on 18 completions. It just wasn't an amazing day. It's not to say that it was a bad day. It was just, if you take away one 80-yard touchdown, which again, I'm not saying we can't give credit where it's due, but the offense looks a lot different. Kenny Gainwell takes over the lead back role in Jalen Warren's absence. He gives you 102 touchdowns. He was really effective in the receiving game. It was basically Gainwell or DK Metcalf all day long for the Pittsburgh offense. When you look over at Minnesota, it feels like they're just destined for a little bit of some roller coaster action. And that's kind of the Carson Wentz experience. But I feel like that's just going to be the Minnesota experience. In the first half, they did a really good job at getting the ball to Justin Jefferson, scheming him open. And in the second half, that just disappeared. That first half was a lot more competitive than it looked. It was just Pittsburgh was turning their looks into touchdowns while Minnesota was being held to field goals. But this was a solid game overall. I left thinking Pittsburgh in the AFC right now with the way that things are going, and Baltimore now 1-3, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but they could win the division. They'll certainly likely be a playoff team just on the fact that they keep winning football games at this point in time. And we know Tomlin, like, they're not going to lose games, but Last year, I bought into Pittsburgh with Russ when they went on the run, and as soon as I bought in, it immediately came back to bite me. So I'm being skeptical right now. So sue me for it. The Philadelphia Eagles remain one of two undefeated teams in the NFL as they go into Tampa Bay and get a 31-25 victory over the Buccaneers. Tale of two halves for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't have a single passing yard in the second half of this game. I don't know how many of you knew that, but Jalen Hurts' stat line of 130 yards and 2 touchdowns, that is the entire first half. Jalen Hurts led the team in rushing with 62 yards. Saquon again just kind of bottled up. They got him the touchdown on that fake tush push, which was solid, but ultimately, it's just been struggles out there for the Philadelphia offense. They just are not clicking at a high level right now. And obviously, with the talent that they have, they're getting by and winning games right now. I think it's really on the back of the defense. You see how many points that they're giving up, and you would think these aren't amazing, impressive defensive performances, but they are playing at a much higher rate than they are used to playing, because last year the name of the game for Philly was control the clock and have good efficient drives, and that's just not happening this year with the Kevin Patullo offense. So the defense is being asked to do more and has consistently made timely plays. Defense and special teams, I'll say. Jalen Hurts, I do believe, is a pretty risk-averse quarterback, and I think maybe he'll need to take some more shots down the field. But at the end of the day, the NFL, we so often see is one lost on turnovers, and Jalen Hurts just doesn't turn the ball over. We'll see if Kevin Patullo could get this offense rolling a little bit better for Philadelphia. I think that they need to get more design looks for Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. You pay those guys a combined over $50 million a year. It's not for 36 yards of production. It's just not. And to think that a 4-0 team could get substantially better probably is scary for the rest of the league. When you look at Tampa Bay, man, they're just never going to be out of a game this year. 3 of 4 games, Baker Mayfield has a fourth quarter comeback to win the game. That's not bad to open up the year. They're still not healthy. They've yet to be healthy this year. I'm excited to see what this offense looks like with Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving put on a show today. 165 total yards of offense, a touchdown. Emeka Egbuka had that really deep 77-yard touchdown, showing that he has a little bit of a deep threat to him as well. Overall, Tampa just fought. The defense, especially the run defense, was really, really solid in this game. And ultimately, again, it is a game of inches, not miles. But Philadelphia goes into Tampa and picks up the victory. The Atlanta Falcons hold off the Washington Commanders in a 34-27 victory in this one. The Atlanta offense is just something I can't figure out. 2 weeks ago, they get shut out by the Carolina Panthers, who let up, 40+ points to the Patriots today, so they're not exactly a good defense overall. And then in this game against a Washington defense that I actually thought had been playing pretty decent, Penix drops 34 on them, has a really strong bounce back game after the disaster last week, 20 of 26 for 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. The 1 pick was pretty bad. He was just staring down his receiver, and he tried to get the ball over Stan Strill's head, but that didn't happen. A 126 passer rating, though, 90.5 QBR. It's tough to say that he didn't have a great day. Fed the ball to Drake London. Kyle Pitts is looking solid, and Bijan Robinson, man, over 180 all-purpose yards in this game. Got in the end zone. Really, really special stuff. Algier and Bijan, that might be competing with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery this season for the best 1-2 punch at running back, because Montgomery's not doing much, but Algier now has found the end zone a couple of times this season. For the Falcons, I don't think that their defense is amazing, but I do think that they have a real defensive line, which is why they drafted Jalon Walker and traded back into the first round to get James Pierce Jr., man. They wanted a real defensive line, and they got one. For Washington, I expect we will see Jaden Daniels back next week versus the LA Chargers. If that is the case, and you say, hey, we went 1-1 in the Marcus Mariota tenure, we scored a decent amount of points with him, we could feel pretty confident about our backup quarterback if we need to go to him and know that we could still compete in games. Yeah, absolutely. The interception he threw on the deep ball, you got to wonder if Jaden Daniels was out there. He's got a great deep ball, so could he have connected better? But in a game where you're down QB1, you're down wide receiver 1, you're on the road, a team that feels like they need to prove something, to me, this loss for the Commanders isn't that big of a deal. I'm interested to see where this running back split of Chris Rodriguez and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Jeremy McNichols ends up going. But overall, for Washington, the defensive line playing decent football. The secondary, though, would be a concern for me after watching Michael Penix just absolutely pick them apart. The Buffalo Bills are the only other NFL team other than the Philadelphia Eagles to still be unbeaten at this point in time. They pick up the 31-19 victory over the New Orleans Saints and send them to 0-4 in this game. Again, it felt like Buffalo was kind of playing with their food a little bit. It almost cost them on that would have been, could have been Brandon Cooks touchdown to put the Saints up late in this game. Ultimately, Buffalo is just the much more talented team. James Cook is continuing a very solid season, 22 carries for 117 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen finds the end zone 3 times, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. Buffalo is just a solid team, but they have had a pretty easy schedule the past couple weeks, so I'm not going to read too much into this victory. For New Orleans, they showed some fight in this game compared to Seattle, so that's something you like to see. Ultimately, though, the talent deficit in this game was just always going to be too much for New Orleans to overcome, but the fact that they were still in it in the second half when they were, I believe the spread was Buffalo minus 16.5, good for New Orleans, I guess, showed some fight. The Detroit Lions pick up the 34-10 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Detroit, after that week 1 loss to Green Bay and the sky was falling, is now 3-0 in their last set of games. A pretty dominant victory here. The first quarter was interesting, but after that, the talent and just the overall execution of the Detroit Lions really outdid what Cleveland could offer in terms of resistance. Jahmyr Gibbs has just taken over that backfield. It is all him now. He is executing at a high level. Amon-Ra St. Brown finds the end zone twice again. The defense is pretty solid. They pick off Joe Flacco 2 times. One of them you could argue was a bit of an arm punt, the one by Kirby Joseph, but the ball didn't exactly go very far, so it wasn't a great decision to have an arm punt. And if I am the Cleveland Browns, I'm highly considering making a quarterback change this week, especially after what we saw from the Giants. When you look at this Browns team, man, there is talent. Quinshon Judkins is a for sure high-level running back in the future in this league. Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond, if you remember the off-the-field allegations that ended up not, they were dropped. I'm not going to say that if they did or didn't happen. I have no clue. But my point being, Isaiah Bond looks like a real wide receiver 2 for this team. Again, another young player. Judkins, Fannin, Jeudy, Bond, a young offensive core. You still have Njoku and Tillman. I would let Dylan Gabriel and or Shador Sanders out there and just see if we can get a similar spark to what the Giants had. The Browns are 1-3, but they're not going anywhere with the current quarterback play. Joe Flacco's just been flat out bad this year. I think we're kind of at the point where, yeah, Joe Flacco's a veteran, but it's time to hang him up, Chief. And the defense is good, but again, Detroit, they just have so much talent. It was always going to be a lopsided game. But if I'm a Browns fan, man, I got to be honest, I am excited at the prospect of some of the offensive talent that they do have. The New England Patriots absolutely dominated the Carolina Panthers 42-13, a very highly efficient game out of Drake May, 14-17, 203 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, a 155.6 passer rating. He had the rushing touchdown too, and he hit him with a super cam on the Carolina Panthers. I do think TreVeyon Henderson, it's only a matter of time for him to take over this running back room. He's just, to me, clearly the best back that they have on the team. He finds the end zone. Stephon Diggs, 6 for 101. So that's a very welcome sight. Maybe coming off of the ACL injury, it would just take him a little while of game speed to get into shape. You hope that that's the case if you're New England. For the Carolina Panthers, man, they're just not that good. And flat out, it's just, I don't think Bryce played particularly bad. I don't think he played particularly good. Juba Hubert's cool. Tedero McMillan is fine. But the Patriots came out with juice, and ultimately, they outplayed the Panthers in every facet of this football game. And going forward with New England in the AFC where it currently is, they could be a playoff team. they could certainly go out there and compete for a playoff spot in New England. And I don't think a lot of us would be shocked if they found their way in there. I know they were a popular pick towards, the end of the offseason to get in as a 6 or 7 seed. They have a fairly easy schedule with games like Carolina on it, and it's important that they take advantage in this spot. And Drake May looks really, really solid. It's just the thing for New England is, can they keep this up? And I'm not saying keep up winning 42-13 week after week, but can New England keep up consistent high-level performances? New England was one of the most penalized teams in the NFL the first few weeks. I'm interested to see here. Penalties still 7 for 54. Like, the time of possession was in favor of Carolina. The total yardage was in favor of Carolina. Maybe earlier I was being a little hyperbolic when I said in every facet of the game, New England dominated, because in a lot of the stats here, Carolina was better. Just New England was highly more efficient with the ball. 0 turnovers each way. Couple special teams, high plays from Marcus Jones for New England too, and it really swung the game in their favor. They have to cut down on those penalties. They got to play good, sound football, but I think New England's got a shot, man, especially in that AFC. The New York Football Giants in the Jackson Dart era starts with a W over the Los Angeles Chargers. This was as shocking of a game as I can remember, especially, prayers out to Malik Neighbors. They suspect torn ACL. At the time of me recording, it has not been confirmed yet, but feels like we're probably headed that way. If you had told me in Jackson Dart's first start against the Chargers team that we had seen through 3 weeks, Malik Neighbors was going to be out for the game pretty early on, and they were going to win the football game, I would have called you insane. But there is something to be said for the energy that Jackson Dart provided the Giants. He gave them some swagger, and the offense, especially on the ground with himself and Scatterboo, was effective against a very good Chargers defense. Jackson Dart adds a layer of mobility at the quarterback position to this Giants offense that they did not have with Russell Wilson. And when you look at Dart's total for the day, he did have 160 plus yards total, 2 total touchdowns, a 96 passer rating. He played good enough to win the game, especially when you consider, again, that Malik Neighbors got hurt in this game and had to miss it. He's out there with Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson and Theo Johnson against what up until this game, and even through this game, I would still say has been a top 10 defense in football, maybe top 5 in the Los Angeles Chargers. That is something very, very positive for the New York Giants. And that is why they made this move to Jackson Dart. And now next week they get the New Orleans Saints, and perhaps the Giants could get something rolling, man. They have one of the toughest schedules in football, and now without Malik Neighbors, I find it hard to believe that, especially in the NFC, the way that those guys are playing, that they're going to be frisky enough to make a playoff push. But you look at the core for New York: Dart, Scatterboo, Neighbors, Robinson, Theo Johnson, Andrew Thomas, an improving offensive line. That defense that balled out in this game. Dexter Lawrence is not human with that interception that he got. I thought we were about to get a thick 6. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter really popped in this game to me. Okereke, Newbin, Holland, Adebo. The Giants have talent all across the field. And while I don't believe that they're a playoff team this year, my early inclination is they will be next year. One game with Jackson Dart, small sample size. We'll see NFL teams and get more film on him. But it feels like New York has something. For the Chargers, listen, man, there's some positives, there's some negatives. You weren't going to go undefeated on the road, a kind of a look-over game. You got Washington next week, feels like a much bigger game. Early start for them, 10 a.m. in terms of West Coast time. You're 3-0 against 3 division rivals, back-to-back-to-back, big game feels, kind of a letdown spot here, and the Chargers let down. Do I think like, oh, the Chargers chargered, they're back to their Charger ways, you can't trust them? No, I don't feel that way necessarily. But do I look at this game in which the Chargers lose to the Giants, in which the Bills beat the Saints, and think, yeah, the Bills are probably more ready to compete for a Super Bowl this year than the Chargers. I do leave feeling that way. Herbert, not his best stuff today. 23 of 41, 203, one touchdown, two picks, a 57.3 passer rating. Quentin Johnston continues to operate as the wide receiver one for this team. 8 for 98 and a touchdown on 13 targets. Just shocking that this guy came out of nowhere to be like this. That is a positive for the Chargers. The fact that you have a legit deep threat wide receiver that now through a month of the season, Quentin Johnston has been legit. A down, Ladd McConkey, MIA. In a game like this, where Herbert was struggling to move the ball, McConkey is supposed to be the guy he could rely on to get the ball too short and make things happen. It didn't happen in this game. Was it scheme? Is it McConkey? I don't know. I didn't watch the all 22 on the game, but something to take note of. Omarion Hampton, very much in this game, looked like a guy who was worth the first round pick that they used on him. 12 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown, averaged 10.7 yards per carry, 54, obviously on terms of the long touchdown run, but 5 for 37 through the air. Omarion Hampton is a key figure in this offense and has been great with every opportunity he's gotten. He had that fumble versus the Raiders, but I think some of that fumble was, I don't know if it was credited to him or Herbert officially, but it was on the hand-off transition that it was getting disrupted. It wasn't like, oh my God, Hampton got the ball punched out like we've seen from Derrick Henry a couple times now. Like, it was just, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, if you told Chargers fans that through 1 month of the season, they'd be 3-1 in first place in the AFC West and have won 3 division games, but got upset by the Giants, I think they'd take it. I think that they would take it if you had told them this was the start at the beginning of the season. So while it does suck, I do think that the Chargers are still a legit Super Bowl threat, especially in the AFC. I just don't know, aside from Buffalo, still, even after today, if there's a team that I trust more than the Chargers. The Houston Texans basically keep their season alive, defeating the Tennessee Titans 26-0. Obviously, you see there in the fourth quarter, a 20-0 quarter. Was a pretty quick game, was a pretty boring game for about 3 quarters. Houston may have figured some things out offensively in that fourth quarter, though, and I believe that it starts with Woody Marks. Woody Marks, the rookie running back that the Houston Texans drafted out of USC. 17 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. What do I always preach on this channel about offenses? The most effective offenses are two-dimensional. And while I know that that is just general, yeah, of course, if you could pass and run the ball, you're the best offense, blah, blah, blah. But I do think that sometimes it goes underrated in terms of, hey, you have to make NFL defenses respect your run game and pass game to be effective. And the Houston Texans did not have a run game that NFL defenses were going to expect. They have a subpar offensive line. So if you're constantly in passing situations with a bad offensive line, that's going to put a lot of pressure on CJ Stroud, and it's going to allow these NFL defenses to tee off on him. In the fourth quarter, when Woody Marks really took over the RB duties, we saw that the Houston offense looked much better than it has. Now, I get it. They're playing the Tennessee Titans, who the defense isn't as good as last year, and the offense is basically non-existent. As Cam Ward said, their ass. Callahan's probably going to get fired. Calvin Ridley's officially washed. They don't have a real run game like they can. It was fine in this game, but they may have the number 1 pick again, the Tennessee Titans. But for the Houston Texans, that run game being a real threat opened shit up in the passing game, and that's where we saw CJ Stroud become effective. 22 of 28 for 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 125.1 passer rating. Nico Collins, 4 for 79. Obviously, like we said, Woody Marks gets involved. Jaden Higgins gets a touchdown in this game. Schultz had a couple nice catches. CJ was able to spread the ball around. The Nick Caley offense looked the best it has looked for the Houston Texans. And in an AFC that has been real wonky, 1-3, you're still alive. And now I believe next week they play Baltimore, and we'll talk about Baltimore in a couple games here, but it may be against Cooper Rush. And this Texans defense against Cooper Rush, I think, could realistically pitch 2 shutouts in a row. Houston Texans do have an elite defense. They just need the offense to be middle of the pack, and the offense was middle of the pack today. Hopefully for Texans fans, it is the start of something. The Los Angeles Rams defeated the Indianapolis Colts. Both teams left the game 3-1. The Rams win 27-20. How freaking good is Puka Nacua, man? 13 for 170 and a touchdown. Top 5, maybe closer to 1 than he is to 5. I will say it. Puka is absolutely balling. We talked about Puka on the channel this offseason. If he had been healthy last year and played a full 17 games, he would have prevented Jamar Chase from winning the Triple Crown. We talked about that, and he might go out there and get it himself this season, truthfully. Matt Stafford has a really good game in this one, 29-41, 375, 3 touchdowns, a 123.5 passer rating. Obviously, that 88-yard touchdown to Tutu Atwell, the go-ahead score in the fourth quarter, was just electric. The Rams are good, man. The Rams are a two-dimensional offense with a defensive line that's really, really solid, and some guys in that secondary that, Lake, Kitchens, Curl, like, they have pieces. I think that they should be in the market for a corner when we get to the trade deadline, but the Rams are no joke. They're certainly not a lookover. Their only loss on the season is to Philly, who had to block 2 field goals to get that win. The Colts, man, despite the loss, I think they're legit. I think that you could argue the Colts should have won this football game, truthfully. Adonai Mitchell drops that, catch right before crossing the goal line, and it results in a touchback. That's a touchdown taken away. Adonai Mitchell called for a holding penalty on a Jonathan Taylor breakaway run that should have been a touchdown. So you're looking at 14 points off the boards for the Colts. I don't know if I necessarily agreed with the holding call, but on just stupid stuff, man. Stuff that they got to clean up. But again, through 4 weeks of the NFL season, if you had told Colts fans, you're going to be in 3-1 and look like the best team in your division, would you take it? I think every Colts fan would say, yeah, absolutely, we're going to take that shit. Jonathan Taylor, again, just very consistent, very solid. Tyler Warren looks like an absolute star. He's the best receiving threat on this team. You can't tell me otherwise. He looks so freaking good, man. 5 for 70. He is just him. He is him. He is a future superstar at the tight end position. He's a star right now. I think he's a future superstar. I think that there very well could be a point in his career where we call Tyler Warren the best tight end in all of football. That is on the board. I thought the Colts defense played decent in this game. Ultimately, Stafford is Stafford and the weapons are the weapons. But, the Lou Anarumo defense was doing its thing for a little while there. Obviously, the big Tutu Atwell 88-yard touchdown changes things and makes the stats look a little wonky. But overall, man, the turnover differential is what did it. The Adonai Mitchell fumble, Daniel Jones getting a fumble, and the 2 interceptions that he had. You can't turn the ball over that much on the road against a high-level quarterback like Matt Stafford and expect to come away with a win. But the Colts are for real, man. The Colts are a real team, and I expect them to be in the playoffs. The Rams, I expect them to be looking to compete for a Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Jaguars somehow are 3-1. So are the 49ers. The Jags win 26-21. I want to talk about the Jags because if there is a team other than Pittsburgh that is more confusing to me right now, there isn't one that is more confusing than the Jacksonville Jaguars. When I came into the season, my expectations for the Jaguars were that the offense was going to look good, but the defense was going to ultimately give up too much for them to win games consistently. Somehow, some way, it is the reverse. And so, there's sometimes where I get predictions right, sometimes I get them wrong. I very seldom do I just completely whiff on analysis of a team. This was a massive whiff. Their defense absolutely is 1000% legit. In this season so far, they have 13 turnovers forced. They forced 2 in this game? 2 in this game. They're up to 13 on the season. All of last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars had 9 turnovers. All of last season, through a month of this season, they have 13. Now, I do worry that turnovers can be a little bit of a fluky stat and isn't sustainable. I don't know, but the defense is clearly much better than it was last year. Devin Lloyd has a really, really good game in this one. The 2 pass deflections, the 1, tackle for loss. He had both interceptions. Devin Lloyd, game ball, MVP of the game, whatever you want to say. I thought that their defensive line with Hines Allen and Aluakon and Trayvon Walker, they did pretty solid in this game. Now the offense. Travis Etienne's looking great. The run game is real, right? Liam Cohen comes into this team. Last year, he was the offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, where Bucky Irving broke out. We kind of thought that one of the running backs in this group was going to take a step forward. And it turns out that it's Travis Etienne, and good for Etienne. I'm happy for him. The passing attack, I don't know if it's going to be the thing that constantly holds the Jaguars back from being legit, or if it's something that's going to get fixed. And then all of a sudden we're like, hey, the Jags got a pretty good offense. It's two-dimensional. Their defense forces a lot of turnovers. They have a really good defensive line. Can they make noise in the AFC? Next week, they play Kansas City on Monday Night Football. And I didn't think I'd be saying it, but that's must-watch. The Jaguars and Chiefs are must-watch next Monday. Brian Thomas leads the team in receiving yards, but it's 5 for 49. It's not exactly a great day. They've been feeding Brenton Strange. Again, the passing attack, similar to Philly, man. It's just not there, but the scheme is there for Jacksonville. It's just either Trevor Lawrence has an errant throw or receivers are dropping the football. It's just one of the two. For San Francisco, man, I think some of the injuries started to finally catch up to them. Ricky Pearsall got hurt at some point in this game. Ayuk's still out, and it's just a very Christian McCaffrey dependent operation. Again, he's solid in this game, 6 for 92 through the air with a touchdown, 50 rushing yards because the Jags D-line is legit. Brock Purdy comes back, and I thought he played all right. Couple bad interceptions. The turnover differential really did cost them in this game. The 49ers, 3-1 through a month of the season. I think both of these teams can be happy with where they're at, but San Francisco, all the injuries might start to stack up. I still think that they have a good shot to be a playoff team, but they don't feel like real contenders to me. The Jaguars, I don't know. I still need more time on them, to be honest. The Kansas City Chiefs absolutely put a beating on the Baltimore Ravens, 37-20. I'm going to take the victory lap, man, because a lot of people on a lot of TV shows and a lot of YouTube channels predicted Baltimore to win this game. Baltimore's just better. They got more talent. That's all I heard. And I came up here and I said, hey, give me Kansas City. At the end of the day, Kansas City has the quarterback I trust more, as the head coach I trust more, and as the defense I trust more. And ultimately, I think all three of those things reign true in this football game. Patrick Mahomes, now that he has Xavier Worthy back, and now that he gets to play a Baltimore Ravens defense that is a real problem, he looked like MVP Mahomes. 25 of 37 for 270 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 124.8 passer rating. You couldn't have asked for a better day out of Patrick Mahomes. The team clearly missed Xavier Worthy. Not only was he their leading receiver, he was their leading rusher. And Pacheco actually looked pretty solid in this game, but I do think that the Chiefs' running game with Pacheco looking good was kind of a phantom of what the Ravens' defense is. I don't think by any means that they'll look good against the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line in terms of a run game. That's going to need to be Patrick winning that football game, but we'll talk about that next week. Ultimately, man, this was a masterclass from Mahomes. Lamar Jackson. What's going on, bro? Back-to-back weeks of bad football. And listen, the counting stats on that Lions game are going to look good. If you watched the game, the 7 sacks that he took, they were on him. It just, you get the play at the end when you're down 2 scores and the Lions are just trying to prevent big plays where you're able to move up and down the field. But I think that this game was bad for Lamar. He gets the hamstring strain. Some people online, not me, not me. Some people are saying it was a fake injury and he was tapping out of the game. We'll see. Derrick Henry, 8 for 42, 5.3 per carry, but they go away from the run because they're getting just absolutely cooked. Lamar had a bad interception, or not really a bad interception, but Chanel had a great interception off of Lamar in this game. This was a terrible game from Baltimore. There's no other way to put it. And they should be worried. There is a real concern with the Baltimore Ravens right now. The defense is bad. I don't know how it's going to get fixed. And the offense, I don't know if the Detroit Lions put the league on notice how to defend Lamar Jackson. And I do think defend Lamar Jackson is a bit of a stretch. It's kind of like contain Lamar Jackson and don't let him kill you with his legs repeatedly. Don't let him get the big chunk plays. Felt like that's what Kansas City did in this game. Felt like that's what Detroit did last week. So a trend to keep an eye on for sure if Lamar plays next week versus Houston. But we'll see if it's Cooper Rush. If it's Cooper Rush, though, the Ravens might fall to 1-4. You know, there's always a team every year that we expect to be a Super Bowl contender that misses the playoffs for whatever reason it is. And dude, last year was the Niners. It's looking like it could be Baltimore. There isn't help on the way. If Kansas City had lost this game and they were 1-3 and Xavier Worthy had played limited snaps, I would have said, hey, like help's on the way. Rashee Rice, Worthy is going to get back into the system. We could still believe in Kansas City a little bit. The Baltimore Ravens, on paper, have one of the most talented defenses in football. At least that's what we thought going into the year. They're one of the worst. Madubuike obviously has missed the last 2 weeks, but based on the way that the team is talking about his injury, I don't think he is going to be back anytime soon. You have Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey get hurt in this game. They were down 6 defensive starters on a defense that was already playing bad when healthy. Help is not on the way. They are going to be very dependent on being such a high-level offense to win football games against good teams. Their only win this year is against Cleveland. They lost to Buffalo, they lost to Detroit, they lost to Kansas City. Those are good teams, but Baltimore is supposed to be competing with those teams and should be winning some of those games, and they're not. I have real concern for Baltimore. For Kansas City, man, there was a reason on the tier list I refused to take them out of the Super Bowl contenders tier because I just thought, hey, like Kansas City's made 3 straight Super Bowls, a slower start to open up the year. I'm not gonna lose the plot on them. And I think in this game, they showed you that they're back. They're legit. They're to be taken serious. We're probably headed towards somehow, some way, another Chiefs versus Bills AFC Championship game. Chicago Bears go to Vegas and pick up a much-needed victory as they head into their bye week, 25-24. I thought Caleb Williams actually looked pretty solid in this game. Max Crosby, though, was the best player on the football field by far. Max Crosby was just terrorizing the Bears offense time and time again. The tip drill interception, him chasing Caleb repeatedly. How many sacks did he have in this game? It felt like he had a sack every other play. 0 sacks. The fact that he has 0 sacks is amazing. Look at this. 3 pass deflections, 1 quarterback hit, 3 tackles for loss. He had an interception. Like, Max Crosby was an absolute monster in this game. Caleb Williams even said after the game that Max Crosby is the best player he ever faced. So, you know, I can certainly see why Caleb felt this way. But for the Chicago Bears, man, 2-2 heading into the bye week. Probably should be 3-1. Probably should have beaten Minnesota. I think this is a good time for a bye week for this team. A young team, a lot of new faces. Ben Johnson can reflect on what the team has done and kind of get them geared up for not the second half of the season, but post-bye week for them to get rolling. Rome Odunze is the only player with 4 straight weeks of receiving touchdowns. He has 5 on the season. He is transformed into a wide receiver 1. They got to get DJ Moore more involved. I think that they'll probably look to do that over the bye week. Luther Burden, Zacchaeus, like they have tons of weapons in this passing game. I think we could see a shift from DeAndre Swift to Kyle Monangai. He's just looked better when he's out there. The offensive line was decent in this game. I thought that the defense for the Bears also played pretty solid. Geno Smith, 3 interceptions. He leads the NFL in picks at this point in time. Kevin Byard had 2. That Tyreek Stevenson interception was really, really nice in my opinion. Ultimately, the Bears, I think they're frisky. I think that they potentially could make a playoff push in the second half of the season. And the NFC is so deep that I'm not sure. They need to have more ups than downs. But I like the direction they're headed in. And the Raiders, man, they're looking like they really, really shit the bed on that Geno Smith over Sam Darnold situation where they brought in Geno and they paid him the high AAV and they're dependent on him. I think he has too many turnover worthy plays. And the defense is very Crosby dependent. At the end of the day, you have Genty have a breakout game. Got to feel good about that. You still have Brock Bowers, so you could say it's the best tight end in football. But in that AFC West, I just don't think Vegas is competing this season. And then another game that there's a full reaction up to on the channel, so I won't spend much time on, but the Green Bay Packers and Dallas Cowboys tied 40-40 in overtime. For me, statement game from Dallas. Nobody thought that they could compete. Everybody was predicting against them. Dak has a massive, massive game, 31-40 for 319, 3 touchdowns on 124.9 passer rating. George Pickens, in the absence of CeeDee Lamb, said, yo, let's roll. 8 for 134, 2 touchdowns. Dak, man, when he's at this level, when he gets in this zone, he's a top 10 quarterback for the night. It's just not week to week consistent with him. There was that one season that he was just doing it all the time. When they were the 2 seed, when Green Bay upset them in that playoff game when they added the 7th wild card. But listen, man, we know what Dak has in him. The Cowboys sneakily have a 2-dimensional offense. I think with CeeDee Lamb back, they could be top 10. The defense played better. We'll see if this is kind of some momentum for them that they can capitalize on. Green Bay, the clock management at the end was weird. Felt like they were playing for the tie. They have a lot of talent, but games like this make me question how much we could trust Green Bay in a playoff run. You couldn't close the door. You couldn't get Dallas to go away. And Dallas, probably not a playoff team. Maybe could be, but are you going to be able to shut the door 3 straight weeks against Detroit, the Rams, Philly? I have a hard time believing that a month into the season. 2 weeks into the season, when they beat Detroit and Washington and stifled them offensively, the team was on top of the world. They faced the Browns and the Cowboys in the last 2 weeks, and they have not been able to beat either of those teams. Some level of concern for Green Bay, absolutely. If you made it this far in the video, hit the thumbs up button. 40 plus minutes of yapping. My back hurts. Might go get some more medicine for myself, or listen, any suggestions, let your boy know in the comment section. I'm hurting out here. Hit that subscribe button if you love the NFL, and I will catch you guys tonight for the Monday Night Football doubleheader, and then tomorrow for the Tuesday tier list. You don't want to miss that. I'll catch you then. Peace.